Have you ever wondered how common a disease is in a population, or how likely it is for someone to get that disease? That is where prevalence and incidence come in. There are two measures used to understand the occurrence of a disease in a population. While they are related, prevalence and incidence capture different aspects of disease occurrence. Prevalence tells us how common a disease is among a group of people at a specific time or over a specific period. It tells us the proportion or percentage of individuals with the disease, including both new and existing cases. So, if a disease has a high prevalence, it means a lot of people in that population have it. Imagine you had a group of 100 students in a school. If 10 of them wear glasses, then the prevalence of wearing glasses in the school was 10%. So prevalence helps us understand how common a disease is among a group of people. Prevalence is calculated by using number of cases with a disease divided by number of persons in a population. It can be expressed as percentage by multiplying 100. If we collect data on the number of cases over 1 year, it's called annual prevalence. For example, the Global Burden of Disease study reported in 2019, 12.3% of people living in North America experienced low back pain at some point during that year. This means 12.3% of people in North America were affected by low back pain in 2019. Prevalence includes both new cases and existing cases. New cases are people who developed low back pain for the first time at some point in 2019. Existing cases are people who developed low back pain before 2019, and their low back pain continued into 2019. So the 12.3% represents the total proportion of people affected by low back pain in 2019. Incidence, on the other hand, focuses on the rate at which new cases of a disease occur within a population during a specific time period. It tells us how many new cases are developing within a specific group of people who were initially free of the disease. Incidence helps us understand the risk or probability of developing the disease within that group. For example, we have a group of 100 students who are healthy, and we follow them up during the school year to determine how many of them develop a common cold. If we find 5 students developed a cold during that year, then the incidence of common cold is 5%. Incidence tells us the rate at which new cases are happening within that group. So incidence helps us measure the occurrence of new cases over a specific time, giving us insights into how quickly a disease is spreading or affecting a population. Incidence is calculated by dividing the number of new cases by the number of people who are at risk of developing the disease. A new cases refers to a person who didn't have the disease of interest before a defined period of time, for example, over a year, but developed disease of interest during the defined period of time. To be at risk, a person cannot already have the disease before the same time period. If we want to know how many new cases of the disease occurred in a year, we use annual incidence. For example, in 2019, the Global Burden of Disease study found the incidence of low back pain in North America was 4%. This means 4% of the people living in North America didn't have low back pain at the beginning of 2019, but at some point during that year of 2019, they developed it. A very important point is, these people may have never experienced low back pain before, or they might have had it in the past, but were pain-free at the beginning of 2019. All of these 4% of people developed a new episode of low back pain in 2019. Therefore, the incidence helps us understand the risk of developing a disease in a specific group of people at a specific time. Prevalence is influenced by several factors, including the incidence and the duration of the disease. This chart helps us understand the relationships among prevalence, incidence, and disease duration. Imagine a study where we study 100 people. The onset of new episode of neck pain is represented by circles, and the existing neck pain is represented by straight lines without circles. In 2002, the annual incidence of neck pain is 5 divided by 96. So how did we get a denominator of 96? Since there were 4 people with existing neck pain before 2002, the number at risk at the beginning of 2002 is 96. On the other hand, the annual prevalence of neck pain in 2002 is 9 divided by 100. The 9 cases include 4 existing cases and 5 new cases. The denominator does not change and is still 100, since prevalence is not concerned with the number of people at risk. Let's move to the year of 2003. 4 of the 9 cases in 2002 recovered in the year of 2002. Therefore, there were 5 existing neck pain cases moving into 2003. In 2003, there were 6 new episodes of neck pain. Therefore, the number of people at risk in 2003 is 95 by using 100 minus 5. The annual incidence and prevalence are 6 divided by 95 and 11 divided by 100. From this example, we can see a higher incidence and a longer duration of a disease will result in a higher prevalence of the disease. In summary, prevalence tells us how common a disease is among a group of people and helps us understand the burden of a particular disease in a population. If a disease has a high prevalence, it means a lot of people in that population have it. While incidence tells us how many new cases are occurring. So if a disease has a high incidence, it means more people are getting it for the first time. Chronic disease that have high incidence rates tend to have higher prevalence. Diseases that have high incidence rates but associated with high mortality tend to have a low prevalence.